Welcome to this episode of The Wolf and the Shepherd. Today we're going to be talking about mail order brides. So this means you could fill out some kind of form and get a bride through the mail, right?
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed actually we didn't reach out for sponsorship opportunities for this episode.
Yeah, we should have.
We should have, because come on, this is ripe for exploitation, this topic.
Yes, it most certainly is.
And we could be the vehicle, we could be the Uber for that exploitation.
Yeah, but I think, aren't there already apps for that, like Tinder and all that, or are they not really looking for marriage?
That's more getting inappropriately familiar with somebody you don't really know in your local area within a 15-mile radius. Mail order brides is like people, you know, a little bit further away.
Oh, so this has nothing to do with all of the alerts I keep getting on my phone that says there's all these single women within 5 minutes of me that want to meet me?
No, that's the kidnapped children alert which comes through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotta fix my phone.
What I really love about the whole concept of the mail order bride thing is that originally it was by mail. Okay, you had people who would read a classified in some personal section of a newspaper. Obviously, you were paying per word back then, right? So you had to be thrifty with your description of yourself. So people were reading this description: woman, not got more than 20 kids, pretty good shape, look for man to marry, and that'd be it. And then there'd be like a PO box, and somebody would think, yeah, she sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So whether you're going on your gut instinct or your level of desperation, that's what you were working with, because there were no photos back in those days when I remember seeing those ads.
All text.
All text. And like I said, they had to be thrifty because you were paying like about 15 cents per word. And for some countries, depending where they were posting those classifieds from, I mean, that's like about 3 days' wages to like post one ad.
Sure.
So you weren't eating for 3 days to be able to post that ad just in the hope that somebody would be, I don't know, wowed by your description.
You know where they actually got that in newspapers? It actually came from telegrams, I think, because I remember reading something about telegrams from Western Union, say, and you would pay by the word. And so that's where almost that infancy of texting came about, because people would break up the sentences and they wouldn't actually be grammatically correct so they could save money. It's like that deal in The Office where I think it was Kevin who said, you know, why use more word when few word matter, you know, things like that.
I did actually think the first time I heard of mail order brides, I think I was maybe like 7 or 8, because I kept seeing this stuff in the back of the newspaper in the classified section. And I honestly thought they sent the brides through the mail.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
but
that's what I thought.
Right. But I was old enough at that point where relatives had sent me like gifts for birthday or Christmas, and I realized the mail was unreliable. Sometimes it would come like a week late or sometimes not at all. And I thought, wow, that's really a bit of a crapshoot, isn't it? Because if you send like a wife or a potential wife through the mail and it may or may not arrive, you know, that's a bit of a disappointment if you're kind of like waiting on your doorstep for the mail to come and then it doesn't come, and then it turns up and then you've just got to pay basically burial costs because she's been dead in the mail. So that's the way my mind was working at the time, because we had a really crappy mail service in England, probably online with like USPS here.
So would you say the postal service over in England is worse than the U.S. postal service here, or about the same?
Well, I think when I left, FedEx had come into play. I think a few other private services. So, you know, the government agencies, you know, normally have to up the game once the private sector gets involved, right? Because can you imagine how bad USPS would be if UPS and all these other ones, DHL, hadn't come into the game?
True.
You know, and it was the same thing in England, because ours was called Royal Mail.
The Royal Mail.
Yeah, well, it's just like, you know, in America, if you put the word federal in front of it, it sounds kind of official and like you expect a certain degree of service, which we've learned means, yeah, it's probably going to be the worst service out of, all the competition, especially the private competition. But it was the same thing in England. Anything where you have the word royal in front of it, it means it's going to be the least efficient among all of its competitors. So it's been maybe like 22, 23 years since I've used the Royal Mail in England, but it was terrible.
I wonder if that's why Federal Express kind of changed to FedEx.
Yeah.
So they took that federal word out of there.
And it's a stupid word to use anyway. I mean, you have, like the Federal Reserve got nothing to do with the government. They just put the federal in front of it to make it sound efficient. Now everybody's learned if the government is involved, it's likely not to be that efficient.
True. No, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So if we were going to send our show notes where we've talked about, if we were going to send those over to India, would you choose the Royal Mail or would you choose the United States Postal Service, assuming now that both of those entities actually deliver to India?
I don't know. I might go the message in a bottle route.
Ooh.
Might have more chance of getting there.
Yeah, but it's got to float all the way around Africa. And what is that? The Cape of Good Hope or the Cape Horn or something down there and then float all the way over to India? So you think we'd have a better chance?
The Cape of the Good Horny Hope. You're pulling out all the names you've heard from like geography 30 years ago in school.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know actually. No, we love our Indian audience, so I'd actually pay the extra money and send it via FedEx.
Okay. So we're gonna go with FedEx on that one.
If you had to sell yourself, right, in 20 or 30 words, imagine you're a lady, right?
You didn't tell me this was going to be one of those woke episodes where I've got to identify as a different gender.
Right. No, you're now going to change gender for 60 seconds, which I'm going to exploit.
Okay.
And maybe put you in if you can identify as a 16-year-old female at this point, I can get you in the local high school female boxing championship and you can win a trophy.
Yeah, but that would require me to have physical exertion and have to actually move around. I don't like that idea.
Yeah, plus you might get punched in the nuts. So that's not going to work. If you were a woman and you had to sell yourself, and I mean discriminate yourself, set yourself apart from all these other people, what in 20 or 30 words could you say without outright lying do you think you could say? If you're trying to attract a male with a hefty income, you've got 20 or 30 words and you can't say, I have big boobies and I'm up for anything. Because remember, this was like years and years ago.
Right.
Where you weren't allowed to say those things.
Probably, I always know what I want for dinner. I'm only going to put one outfit on and never change. And I'll never.
All right, you're out of words. You're out of words.
Oh,
That's
did I already run out of words?
Useless.
See, this was a hidden Stump the Shepherd.
My goodness!
No, you're getting a little bit crafty with this Stump the Shepherd stuff now.
You would not get any replies for that.
Probably not.
No, you do have to remember. We've talked before about online dating and how the whole catfishing thing, right?
Right.
And people getting to choose 1 out of 4,000 photos, which is a misrepresentation of their true self.
Yep.
This, you had to sell yourself in between 20 and 30 words because most of the classifieds actually used to place a limit on the number of words because they had to be able to fit a certain number of these ads in a specific section in the newspaper because it's not like digital print now. They actually had to plan ahead. And so, we're placing 9 of these ads on Thursday. Somebody had to sketch out on a piece of paper where their stuff was being printed. And so you could only have a limit of so many words, right?
Gotcha.
So here's mine, right? If I'm selling myself.
Gotcha. All right. And now you're once again a woman?
Yeah, for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
So,
the time's rolling.
Right.
Here's your 30 seconds as a woman.
Now. I am woman.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. You've got too deep of a voice to be a woman, so
this is by text. No, this is speech to text, right?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Speech to text, okay?
All right.
I am woman. I am voluptuous. I am submissive. I am obedient. I can cook. I like naughty time. That's it. You can't tell me back in the old days, maybe like, not when it first originated, but like 40 years ago, you wouldn't be enthralled by that description.
Well, I think you should have
Oh,
added.
I not large.
I not large.
I not large.
Yeah, because now you're getting close to that 30-word limit there.
Yeah,
because I was counting the words, and
I'd sign up for that.
It was more than 6 words.
Yeah, I'd sign up for that if I was desperate. Maybe. I don't know.
When you said, though, I am woman, I
Yeah.
just expected you to next say, hear me roar, but
Yeah.
you didn't say
No,
that.
I didn't know.
That probably would have turned some people off way back then.
Well, it's about 15 years before the whole roaring thing, before women suddenly decided, hold on a moment,
Yeah.
what does roaring have to do with being a true woman?
Yeah, but isn't that where Katy Perry sang that song? Was
Roar.
right after that?
Yeah, but that was only about 10 years ago.
Oh. Well, how long ago were these ads?
But let's be honest, Katy Perry, I mean, it's all right being Katy Perry, and saying, oh, I'm going to roar. It's kind of, she didn't really need to roar to get attractors, does she?
I don't think so.
She doesn't need to, does she?
Maybe she does now.
Yeah.
When's the last time you heard anything out of her?
Well, the demon that was inherent in Miley Cyrus and Britney Spears left them and actually entered Katy Perry, I think. Because remember, she cut all her hair off and went a bit bonkers for a while.
Yeah, and then she kind of got back to normal.
Yeah.
And so that same demon must have jumped to somebody else that we're not keeping track of.
Meghan Markle.
Nah, I think that's a different demon.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Legion.
Yeah.
Where do you think the whole kind of mail order thing came from?
Laziness.
No, it didn't really come from laziness. It came from necessity. Necessity to reproduce in the essence of man.
Sure, you can say it that way, but look, necessity was the frontiers people, traveling across.
Right, there you go. That's it. That's where it came from, the frontiers people.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, because they were out there and they were doing jobs which, were dangerous. No women were out there doing those jobs. Maybe there were some, but I don't know. I didn't look into it that much, I'll be honest with you. They were out there getting some good coin for the dangerous work they were doing, but, it's hard to find a woman. And so they would actually write letters to churches back in the East, put ads in newspapers and magazines saying, kind of looking for a woman, am earning good money, I won't beat you, please reply. And so these things would be read out in churches, they'd be in the church bulletins, they'd be in the newspapers, and women, if they, kind of liked it, the description you can get in 20 words, whatever, would actually send a photo of themselves, to these guys on the frontier.
Well, but let's back up. Let's imagine that you're one of these dudes out there on the frontier, right?
Yeah.
We've already talked about modern day how the Royal Mail and the U.S. Postal Service doesn't really do that great of a job. You gotta think they do a better job today than they did way back then. So can you imagine writing this letter to a church, handing it to some dude, I guess, in the Pony Express and saying, hey, deliver that letter? And now you're sitting around waiting for months on end, and you see the Pony Express dude, and you say, hey, did you deliver that letter? He's like, oh, man, dude, I forgot. Can you write another one? And the whole time,
well,
it used to be
a relay. They didn't have one pony like going 1,500 miles. It used to be a relay race,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
I thought it was one horse that just rode around.
Just went like the whole time.
Yeah.
Just went like the full 1,500 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where racehorses were
just
invented.
to and from? So just like a train. You just have like Michael the horse who goes from wherever, to like all the way to New York and then back again like 3 times a day.
Well, something like that. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
no.
they were fast horses.
No, I think there was a relay. But you say that. Remember that episode we did about where we don't agree with the whole concept of horsepower and a measurement for like cars and stuff, because I have driven past fields of horses and some of them seem to spend most of their life like asleep.
Right.
You've got to be annoyed if you get like a horse for your Pony Express and he's just like slow as all get out, or he's got dietary issues and needs to stop like every 30 minutes for a 5-minute poopy. That your thing is not getting there. So, you're working on the front line in the frontier, right? Everybody else has got their mail order brides and you're still waiting because you got the wrong horse in the Pony Express.
Right. Maybe they should have used elephants.
You know who has elephants?
India.
India.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
but they're
favorite
different.
country.
They're different elephants over there, though.
What do you mean? From where? Well, you've got African and Indian elephants. The difference is the size of the ears.
Yeah, but what about the American elephants?
What, you mean the ones in the zoos?
Yeah, they could have delivered the mail.
I don't think we had them then, actually.
Oh. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
Because think about
But
how
they're
much
not that fast, though, are they?
Well,
let's be honest.
Yeah, but
they're reliable, but
yeah,
slow.
Yeah, they're more reliable, and not only that, they could carry so many more letters. So you'd need fewer elephants. See, if I was in charge of the Pony Express, I'd have been like, no, let's do the elephant.
Yeah.
The Elephant Express. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You need fewer animals, right? You can take many more parcels along with you. Don't have to worry so much about the horses. And look, if you've ever ridden an elephant, I mean, I rode an elephant one time in the circus, years ago when I was a kid. Yeah, when I was a kid, I went to the circus, and you get to do you get to do the little elephant rides. They're nice, gentle people, or gentle creatures.
People?
They're not people. No, they're not people. They're gentle creatures. And you could just take a nap. I mean, that sounds like a job you and I could have had back in the day, riding for the Elephant Express, delivering mail.
I don't want to spend like 6 weeks taking a letter from the frontier to New York and then having to go back again to deliver that same letter saying, yeah, nobody's interested, mate.
Maybe birds, like storks. How
Birds.
storks used to deliver babies,
well,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they stopped delivering babies, so why didn't we just repurpose storks into delivering letters?
Because of the unions. Storks started forming unions and they became too expensive to use.
Oh, is that why you don't see that many storks anymore?
Well, that's why they don't deliver babies anymore. They price themselves out of the market.
Oh,
it's just easier to have natural childbirth.
Right, so it's their own fault.
That's why you don't get them anymore. In the frontier days, right, what ended up actually happening was they started running out of females. So this whole frontier thing, these men would write these letters, get them sent, by the horse or whatever, and hoping women would reply with a photo, which, let's be honest, at least they couldn't catfish you, because it used to cost quite a bit of money to get a photo taken those days, right? So you only had one chance. It's like, okay, Ethel, there might be a chance somebody wants to marry you. Keep your mouth shut because you're missing 9 teeth at the front there. Just put your hands by your side. Don't look over enthusiastic. Nobody likes a desperate-looking woman, even in the 1800s. And we're going to take one photo of you, and we're going to send it and just hope that, you get a diamond the other end of this. And so it would get back. And what actually ended up happening is they ran out of women. And this is where the overseas thing came in. And so they'd actually start sending these letters overseas. And so you'd actually get international mail order brides. So they started running out of domestic American women who were probably like dying of boredom or something. And
we're still talking about the same time frame,
frontier,
right?
Yeah. They ran out of women.
Wow. So now the letters are going by boat. I mean, I would think you talked about the storks and everything, but ducks would work
this was pre-union. I think they were still using storks. But I don't know how much kind of a distance storks get, because they're kind of big, goofy birds. I don't think they get more than about 30 miles in a flight before they have to refuel.
Right.
Which across the Atlantic is,
Yeah, there's no way
iffy.
they can make it. But, I mean, a duck or maybe a swan, they're bigger. They could swim across. But let's assume for a minute that we're actually putting this mail on boats, right? Yeah. Because I know there were boats back then.
There were boats back in the 1800s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there were boats in the 1700s.
Yeah.
So there's got to be boats in the 1800s.
And also 16,000 BC, but we won't go into that.
No.
So there was an imbalance, between the number of women available domestically and the number of men seeking them. And also, men would actually turn down, surprisingly, some of these photos. So they'd wait 6 weeks for this photo to come back. So Ethel, who actually did her best pose, maybe looked over enthusiastic or smiled, and you could see the light, shining at the back of her throat through all her missing teeth.
But do you think Ethel in your example was maybe answering multiple ads?
Oh, of course. Well, yeah. I mean, it was the same equivalent of today's internet. I mean, it's cast a wide net, you're going to catch more fish. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure in the bulletin, all these women were just replying to everything.
Sure. So can you imagine, like, you're sitting there with your buddy on the frontier,
and you're both waiting for the same woman,
right? And the mail comes in, and so you open your mail, and you're like, "Oh, check this chick out," and your buddy's sitting on the other side of the fire, and he's looking. He's like, "Oh, she's ugly. There wouldn't be anybody in their right mind that would ever want to be with this woman." And he goes and he throws it in the fire, and the guy sitting on the other side of the fire is like, "Yeah, that's the same picture. I was about to write her back. Maybe there's something wrong with me."
Well, I don't think this is official, but I actually think most of the deaths on the frontier were not caused by ineffectual, unsafe equipment. I think most of it were like fights to the death between men who were expecting to marry the same woman. They all like pulled out the photo, and it's like, hold on, I'm marrying her.
Right.
I like,
Yeah, and then you got the dude that's at the chuck wagon over there, and he's cooking everybody beans for dinner. And he's like, well, man, I got that same picture, too.
I'm going to poison them.
Yeah.
She mine.
Yeah. See, we're taking care of the revisionist history and making sure everybody knows exactly what happened in history.
Yeah. Now, I wonder how much catfishing actually went on in those days. Because, if I wanted to, if I was a woman back east...
Now, you're talking about, like...
1800s, somewhere in the 1800s.
Well, no, but you're not talking about, like, fishing, like catching fish, right?
No, I'm terrible at that.
Well, me too.
Yeah, I'm good at catfishing, though. Remember, we had that episode. I told you how I spent about 3-4 years.
Yeah, that's right. So
pretending to be a lesbian online.
So you got, like, Ethel, right? But maybe Ethel has a sister named Gertrude, and Gertrude's kind of pretty. So she has... Gertrude take the pictures, but she puts her name on them. That would be the 1800s version of catfishing.
So you sign up for it, and while you're waiting 6 weeks to get a reply in a photo, and you get this photo back, and it's like, oh yeah, Gertrude, who is, Ethel's sister, you get a photo of her, and you're like, oh yeah, I could have a bit of Gertrude. That would make me happy, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
And then, you wait another 6 weeks. You send the reply back saying, yeah, Ethel, yeah, you look lovely and all that. And, get a letter back from Ethel saying, yeah, can't wait to meet you. And this goes on for about 1.5 years, right? And then you arrange to marry. So he makes all his money, gets back. And then there's Ethel. And he's looking at her thinking, well, you've gone downhill in the last 18 months. I'll be honest with you, love.
Yeah, but...
You look a bit of a state, if I'm not lying.
Sure, but then she could use the excuse, well, hey, that's what I looked like 18 months ago, and you fell in love with my words. You fell in love with my heart, not the way I look. And then this guy's been out on the frontier for so long, he's like, you know what? Yep, I'm good. I'm ready. That's fine.
Yeah.
Looks like the same dress in the picture, because I'm pretty sure everybody back then...
Well, they all wore that same stuff.
Yeah, I think it was made out of a potato sack.
It's like white college girls now. I mean, they all wear pretty much the same thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the same, back there in the frontier days, they all wore those long dresses, so you didn't see the obscene ankle and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I honestly don't know whether it would have been better to be a eunuch back in those days as a male, rather than playing that lottery of, trying to get a wife via... Pony Express.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to stop you right there and say I'd rather not be a eunuch, no matter what time period I live in.
Really?
Yeah. Now, you can have all that you want, but I'm pretty sure I don't want to.
Well, yeah, they didn't have Xbox back then, so, I mean, you couldn't have anything else to do. I mean, that's pretty much it. You just live to make some money and find a lady.
And procreate.
Yeah, procreate, yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking back to History of the World Part 1 and, all the eunuchs there. They look like they were miserable, so... Yeah. Eunuch, I'm going to take a firm stance against being a eunuch.
All right. What would be your expectations back in those days of a woman?
Well, obviously, can't be worried about how she plays Xbox, because the Xbox wouldn't exist back then.
Right. Well, your wife doesn't play Xbox anyway, does she?
A little bit. Simple games.
Yeah.
Not anything that requires...
like accessing Netflix.
Yes. Yeah. I guess I would say my expectations would be a woman that would be able to take care of the house, not die during...
The shack, not the house, mate.
All right, fair
You
enough.
don't have no house back then.
The cottage? Can I use the word cottage, or is that too English?
Small home.
Small home.
Only the hobbits and the English live in cottages.
Oh, okay. So shack. Okay,
shack.
So
Love Shack, the Love Shack.
Yeah. So sweeping the dirt floor, that's got to be a must. I mean, we got to have smooth dirt on our dirt floor.
Yeah.
I'm going to say she needs to be able to cook whatever I go out and shoot. So we're probably eating a lot of rabbits and ducks.
Squirrels,
yeah, some squirrels too. Poor squirrels. I wonder if you can eat a squirrel's tail.
Pretty sure you can in Asia.
Yeah, and so she'd have to be able to do that, not die during childbirth, and not die during the winter, because, I mean, talk about having to replace a wife after every winter.
It's hard not to get women to die during the winter nowadays, let alone back then.
Yeah, they get cold.
Yeah, it gets like below 72 degrees, and they're like, oh, and this is the most common used phrase worldwide by women I've heard, because I've heard this in multiple languages when it starts getting cold in the winter. Oh, my feet are like blocks of ice.
Ah, that is true.
Don't they? They all say it. I've heard French women, German women, English women, American women all use that same phrase. My feet are like blocks of ice. No, actually, love, they're not. Not literally, are they?
No.
Let's be honest. They're not literally like blocks of ice.
You jog my thoughts here, because they should be good at building a fire.
Women can't make fire.
Yeah, they can.
No, they can. It's biblical.
Oh.
It's in the book of Ecclesiastes.
Oh.
Women are crap at making fires.
That one's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, they don't kind of normally do that one in church nowadays, because they don't want to offend like half the congregation. But no, it's true. Women can't build fires. Have you ever seen a woman build a fire?
But if a woman can't build a fire, how are they supposed to cook?
Well, you've got to make the fire for them, and then they cook upon the fire.
Yeah, but if I'm out hunting and then I bring stuff home...
Yeah, you've got to make the fire, and you've got to skin it. So basically all she's doing, she's got the easiest job. She just sticks a stick up its arse and through the mouth, rotates it while you're getting washed up, cleaning all the blood off you, and then she serves it for you and you eat it.
What a raw deal that is.
Well, I know. Well, back then you had to put in most of the work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean...
It's a good thing we had things like Uber Eats and Grubhub,
right?
Because I don't think I could handle that.
Well, you have to remember it was a mutually beneficial relationship in terms of needs and wants. Okay, so for the woman, you'd want her to be able to cook, clean, pop out some babies, and like you said, not die in the childbirth part, and still maintain that cooking and cleaning. During that period of like not quite giving birth and then giving birth, you needed to bounce back within the first day, because let's be honest, you don't want to be making your own sandwiches, yeah.
No.
Because otherwise you may as well just have two wives. And the, demands on the men was just be like, get us enough money so we don't starve to death and don't die of the black lung. I think that was it. Those were the only two kind of...
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And that's why life was so much simpler back then.
Yeah. So going a little bit off topic, which I know we don't normally do, but Adam and Eve, okay? Do you think Adam was happy because it was the only woman he'd ever seen?
I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's all you know.
Well, God created her, so she must have been pretty hot.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't think God would have
let him down. He wouldn't have let him down,
Yeah, that wouldn't have been nice.
He wouldn't have given him like a, I don't know, Rosie O'Donnell.
Right, but
type figure,
but we all know God has a sense of humor. I mean, look at the duck-billed platypus, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think at this stage of the game, God is sitting there saying, "Hey, let me pull a funny one on poor Adam and give him an ugly wife." No, he wouldn't do that.
Well, you think about it. You talk about the desensitization, okay, of like the unrealistic, I guess, expectations upon women. So they used to claim like 20 or 30 years ago, and that kind of died off, that, men, because they see so many images of pretty girls in movies, on TV and magazines, that, their expectation for a woman, that now for us to find them attractive, it has to be, checking a lot more boxes than it did maybe 50 years ago.
Oh, not even 50.
But Adam didn't have that. Adam didn't have this, like, this is not up to my standard. I mean, how about 3 ribs? What can you do for 3 ribs?
Yeah, well, Adam didn't have any standards because he didn't even know the difference.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? I mean, that's one of those beautiful things, if you stop and think about it, to be in his shoes and not have to worry about those standards, because there were no standards.
Right.
Like you talk about with the the way things are right now, where you have people that can, Photoshop their pictures and do all that, and you have this idea of what that beautiful person, and I use person here because it goes for men the same way. I mean, there's plenty of men out there that are doing this, and I use the term men loosely for the ones that actually do that. But everybody can get confused and get led down the wrong trail, so to speak.
I mean, one thing, going from all that, when Eve got kind of duped by the serpent, right, about eating from the fruit of the tree of life.
Which, by the way, let me go on the record to say I am against anybody having snakes as pets.
Right.
Just based off that story in the Bible.
Yeah, I haven't been fond of them since, to be honest with you. So, do you think the moment that happened, she had this oh crap moment, and she started planning immediately on kind of misleading Adam into getting to make the same mistake she had? And, it wasn't just a conversational thing. She actually used her dark arts, if you know what I mean, to try and convince him to kind of, eat the fruit.
Well, remember, the Bible was written by a bunch of guys, right? So they probably left that part out where Eve basically told Adam, hey, this is all your fault. And Adam's sitting there like, well, wait, what did I do?
You think she guilted him into eating it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So she wouldn't try to like, hey, if you eat this, I'll kiss your cheek or something.
Well, there could have been some of that too.
Because it must have been easy back then to be like really...
But you also know that once all that happened, there was probably an aside conversation when they were cast out of the Garden of Eden that Eve said, by the way, this is all your fault, Adam. And Adam's sitting there scratching his head like, one day I wake up and, here I am, the only dude here. God's nice, gives me a wife. Next thing you know, I'm kicked out of my home where everything was good. But how is this my fault? And then he just says, okay, well, I guess it's my fault because it's easier to just accept the blame and move on than have that constant argument.
Do you think it was the first example of bait and switch? I mean, she started off naked and then she ended up wearing clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I know in the Bible it doesn't actually say that the fruit of the tree of life was an apple, but I got to thinking and I thought, well, it can't be an orange because the serpent isn't peeling an orange, is he?
No.
He's not going to be convincing if he's trying to sell the orange to Eve. Eve's going to be like, hold on, mate, you don't have any arms. How do you know what this tastes like?
Yeah, it had to be something like an apple or a pear, like a grape.
Something it bites straight into. So she's like, really? Does it taste that good? And the serpent's like, oh, yeah, I eat this like 6 times a day. It's fantastic. Yeah, not convincing with an orange or a coconut.
Right,
yeah. So,
is the coconut a fruit?
I don't know.
Pretty sure.
I doubt any of our listeners know either, so it doesn't matter, does it? No, coconut is, it's a fruit. Well, it's not a vegetable, is it? It's not a meat, so it's got to be a fruit. Those are the only 3 food types other than grain and stuff. No, it's vegetables.
Because you got, what do you got? The fruit and vegetable group. You got the bread group.
Fruit, vegetable, meat. No, grains. Bread is a grain thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Made out of vegetables, I think.
Oh, dairy. It's coconut milk. It's dairy group. Because you buy coconut milk all the time, so a coconut has to be in the dairy group.
Yeah, it's in the same refrigerated section. So, all right.
So coconuts are in the dairy group.
Dairy. All right, coconut is dairy. I'm glad we sorted that out. So, did you know that there is actually mail order husbands?
Okay, so when you say male, obviously you're saying M-A-L-E.
Yeah. I don't have Tourette's. I mean male, M-A-L-E, and then M-A-I-L. Yeah. There's actually men as well who women can get, and actually used to get, because obviously now on the internet it's kind of equal. But yeah, back then women could actually write and say, hey, everybody's gone to war and died and stuff, and my womb is going to be barren in another 6 years, so I need a man.
I think we can go on the record. We're equal opportunity, so
no, we're not.
Glad. Oh, I thought we were.
That's the biggest lie you've told in like 64 podcasts. No, we're not.
Oh, I thought we were.
No, we're not.
I thought that was on our mission statement. Don't we have a mission statement somewhere?
Yeah, it's blank.
Oh, I was supposed to do that, wasn't I?
No. That was one of the things. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Sorry.
So
scratch that.
So an ad is a man, right?
Right.
Man. Likes food, likes sex, please don't complain too much. That's it. That's all I'm sending out, I'll be honest with you.
that's one
I'm
of
just
those...
hoping somebody is truthfully going to reply.
Yeah, but honestly, that's one of those things kind of like a Beethoven symphony, right? It just stands the test of time. So that ad would work today just like it would have worked 200 years ago.
Adam could have actually used that one.
Yeah.
If like God said, all right, Adam, what you after, mate? And Adam could have said, like food, like sex, please don't complain too much. That would have worked then.
Yeah, but we knew he liked food.
He
didn't want any complaining, but he didn't know what sex was.
Well,
I punched a hole in your logic there. You weren't expecting that.
I don't know.
Curveball from the shepherd.
Yeah. So, I suppose if we're going to make any progression in this, we have to move onward from Adam and Eve and the frontier times, right? So, if we jump forward to the 1990s, which I know is a huge period, but...
Well, wait, we're skipping the 80s? There's so much stuff that happened in the 80s.
There's really not. I looked it up.
What, Wonder Woman?
Well, yeah, but...
And Aladdin?
No, we've gone over this. Aladdin was a Disney movie, all right? The story of Aladdin is back centuries before. The whole flying carpet stuff did not take part in the 1990s. In Iran, or in, Persia, it used to be called Persia, right? So in Persia, there were not flying carpets in 1990. This took part a long time before then.
No, I don't believe you.
Disney was not a documentary. Disney Aladdin was not a documentary.
I don't believe you.
Well, I've looked it up. So I didn't want to cover 150 years without any, kind of, I guess, not mentioning any changes, okay? Because literally before the internet, the mail order bride stuff was exactly the same in terms of classified right up until the internet.
So still no pictures?
Well, have you seen any, you remember like old newspapers, the quality of the pictures.
Right.
Unless you had one of the expensive cameras back then, any picture you did, a headshot, I mean, can you remember like the yearbooks? I mean,
yeah.
You had to sit still there for like goodness knows how long for them to take a half-decent photo of you. If you've got somebody who's trying to find a partner through a newspaper, I don't think they're paying top dollar to get the best photo representation. Remember, all those newspaper ones, if you look closely, you could actually see those kind of dots, those pixels making up the photo, right?
I think there's a name for that, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really didn't change right up pretty much to the mid-90s. It stayed the same for 150 years.
Wow. That is crazy to honestly think about that didn't change. How so many things change very quickly that kind of stayed, static.
Yeah. But one thing which did change is American men became sick of American women.
I think maybe.
So where do you think they looked? Not England, because English women are even worse.
No, but we were sick of English people back in the frontier day. That's why we fought the war.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't ask for English women.
No, I'm gonna guess Eastern Europe.
No, I'm English, so I will say this and admit it. English women come out of the womb moaning about stuff, not like crying. I mean, well, actually, yeah, there's a joke about that. I can't remember what comedian said it, is that English female babies come out of the womb, they cry, not because they're gasping for breath, it's because they're whining about something, that the food was insufficient in the womb. And
because it was English food.
Yeah, well,
the mother was probably eating a bunch of that curry stuff you try to get me to eat all the time.
I don't think that's it, mate. So, American men, mid-90s, actually late 80s, to the mid-90s, before the internet came into play, they started answering these ads from these agencies which suddenly popped up out of nowhere, and they were trying to get brides from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, all the other Eastern European countries, the ex-Soviet bloc, and all this stuff.
What did you just say? Eastern Europe? I guessed that one right.
Yeah.
Give me some credit. I guessed it right.
Yeah, but you think Eastern Europe is anywhere east of France.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so it's not like Germany. Nobody wants to get mail order bride from Germany.
Why not?
Have you seen German women?
Just the one from Austin Powers.
Who's that?
That Frau, whatever her name was.
Oh, yeah. And did she check all the boxes?
She did for Dr. Evil. Remember, that's where the kid came from.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, to each his own, right? I mean, we're all entitled to our preferences.
Yeah. I would not sign up for... Well, actually, now I say that. On Instagram, I've seen some pretty German women, but I've also seen a dog riding a bicycle, so I'm not really going to...
What kind of dog?
I think it was a basset hound, which surprised me because they got short legs.
Yeah.
But his little ears were flapping, he's riding in the wind, and he seemed so happy.
Well, I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
I don't want to ride a bicycle. I haven't done that for a long time. I'd rather the dogs ride the bicycles.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear spandex and hold up traffic.
Why'd you have to wear spandex to ride a bicycle?
I thought that was required now. You have to put on the goofy little helmet
That's true
and the
now,
little
actually.
spandex outfit,
Yeah.
and then you have to hold up traffic.
I saw actually two people riding bicycles the other day, and they were wearing masks while they were cycling. And they were about, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 yards apart. So they're outside in the sun riding masks.
Well, they're embarrassed that they're on bicycles. So they're trying to hide
One
their
of them
face.
one of them was actually wearing cycling shorts. That's spandex as well. Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. So women quickly, after the fall of the Soviet Union and in the Eastern Bloc, thought, well, you know what? We don't have to live here, work in the salt mines, in the mills, and, work for $1 a day or whatever, and decided that, okay, there might be a better life in the Western world. And so all these agencies popped up, which tended to be either American or English-based, and they would act as a go-between between these, women in the, East and the Western world, and actually set up and, they would handle all the communications. So they'd have a central PO box, and so they would pay for expedited mail. So it wasn't like you sending a letter to some woman in the Ukraine. They'd get all their stuff and they'd send all these letters. But again, it was the same thing that, one woman would probably receive 50 letters, and one man would probably apply to marry 40 women. So that was that whole kind of throw in the net wide thing.
Sure,
but you had agencies. That was the first introduction of agencies then in the 90s, which actually handled it.
You got to like the entrepreneurial spirit, though, of those agencies. That they figured out a way to make money. I mean, we sit here every time on the podcast trying to figure out a lazy way to make money. Those dudes back then, they had it figured out. All we got to do is run down to the post office, get us a P.O. box, and we'll collect all these letters, and we're going to take a fee for this. So, got to appreciate their spirit there, that entrepreneurial spirit.
Now,
they did good.
It's difficult now to actually find in Russia women who are suitable for Western men, because women in Russia, right for about, I think, the last 10, 15 years of demographics, 40% of them are in higher management positions. Okay?
Managing what?
I don't know. In
vodka
businesses
factories?
And stuff. I don't know. But
isn't that all Russia does is make weapons and vodka?
Well, yeah, most of the country, yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, they're still in senior management positions, which means they're kind of overseeing other people, okay?
So they're either angry because they're in the military portion, they're making weapons of war, or they're drunk because they're making vodka.
Well, one of those, yeah. But they earn still typically only 40% of what men do for the same job, okay?
Okay.
So when you're trying to apply for one of these brides, like you said, they're already really, really angry because they're earning less than men, and also they're in these senior management positions, so they're bossing people around. So, I mean, this is a recipe for disaster, because I think a lot of the reason now that, Western men and maybe, North American men, look to the East is because they want a little bit of a break from the stereotypical American woman. It's just like that Lenny Kravitz song, American Woman, and all he starts bitching about American women. They want a break, but these Russian women sound even worse.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, especially the one industry that I kind of left off, and I want to apologize if we have any Russian listeners.
We don't. We looked at the stats earlier. There's nobody from Russia who listens to us.
But maybe they will, search on Google and find this one. That doll stacking thing. That's the other thing that Russia does. They make those dolls.
What's the name of those things?
Inside.
Yeah. I don't know if that's still a thing, and I think they're produced in China now.
Are they?
Because they do them cheaper.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But you're also talking about back then, so maybe they're still making those stacking dolls and everything. Maybe those were the target women. The ones that were in charge. The women
who do that.
Yeah. Well, the women that were in charge of the doll stacking companies. That's the one I would try to hunt out, outside of vodka and nuclear missiles. I mean, if you had to pick one, it's like, okay, look, Wolf, you got a choice. You got 3 industries you're going to pick from. Nuclear weapons manager, vodka manager, and you can't get any free vodka, and you can't get any free nuclear weapons, or doll stacking person. You'd pick the doll stacking person.
Well, I don't know. I'm not allowed to have any contact with anybody outside of the United States who's involved in
doll
weapons.
Stacking?
No, weapons. So I'm going to have to go with vodka.
But you can't get any free vodka. And she can't make you vodka.
Oh, she'll know how to make vodka. Why is she in a senior management position if she doesn't know how to make vodka?
Because she's sitting there behind a desk all day dealing with all kinds of HR crap about people complaining about being sexually harassed or misgendering them.
This is worse than marrying somebody from New York. So I've actually been learning quite a lot recently about mail order brides, which obviously now is over the internet. I've been watching a show with my girlfriend called 90 Day Fiancé, where, people are going through these agencies online and trying to find, a husband or a wife overseas, and they apply for a visa. They bring the person to the country and they have 90 days to get married, right? So, obviously there's different criteria. If I'm a man and I'm getting a woman from overseas, I'm trying to maybe get somebody who I wouldn't normally be able to get in the United States, which is somebody who's like, 25, who thinks Red Lobster is like the treat of a lifetime and, finds me wearing the same pair of underwear for 3 days in a row a turn on. On the women's side of it, it's pretty much the same thing. You've got, women who narrowly were disqualified from My 400-Pound Life on the TLC channel, who are trying to get somebody from Africa who's like 22, who doesn't really have a job, but, she's getting, I don't know, welfare or something, and so she's using that money to get a husband. And that seems to me pretty much the premise of the show. But one thing I have realized is that the women from Russia on that show, within about 5 minutes, I'd be like, absolutely no way. They start whining the moment they get off the plane. And I renamed that show 90-Second Fiancé because that's how long it would take me to decide, no, I don't want this anymore.
So the whole premise, though, of the show is basically the mail order brides, but they just brought it into the 21st century.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds...
But it was stereotypical, like pretty much every woman who would want to get somebody from overseas, but all of these women on here pretty much chose men from Africa, and all the men chose women from poverty-stricken ex-Soviet bloc countries, thinking, if I take her out and, buy her some fries from McDonald's, she's going to think I'm like the richest man in the world type thing. But they come over and they start whining immediately.
Well, now, are they choosing them, like looking at pictures or something like that, and then they get to meet them? Or are they choosing them because they're getting off the plane and they like say yes, no, yes, no?
Well, they don't send like 30 people over. They walk off the plane and they're pointing at them. It's not like the first episode of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette where you get rid of like 8 of them on the first episode.
Okay.
No, it's not like getting off the plane. It's like return ticket, go back right now.
So there's a little bit of pre-selection.
Yeah, no, they're not getting on the plane unless they've been selected.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. I've never watched this.
But again,
show,
it's so much obvious catfishing goes on because every single story on this show, it's about where, oh, well, you didn't explain you'd been married 4 times before and had 9 children, or, you know, you didn't explain that you had type A diabetes and I'm going to have to spend, you know, $96 a week on Mars bars from Costco to just keep your blood sugar levels normal. You know, I mean, there's a lot of catfishing goes on, which makes for the entertainment part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just they're just responding to ads through these agency websites and saying, yeah, I like the look of her.
Do you think
she might be happy with me?
Do you think the women, or the men for that matter, that are we'll call them contestants on the show. I don't know if that's the right
Pretty
word.
much is, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So we'll call them contestants. So do you think they get paid to actually be on the show? And
you know they
this?
do. You know they do.
Yeah.
They have to be. There's nothing real anymore. I think originally when you had the first Big Brother type thing, you know, what was it called? Was it Big Brother on MTV? The first kind of when they all went in the house thing. What was that called?
That was The Real World.
Real World, yeah, Real World. I think the original kind of shows like that first out, yeah, they chose people who had distinct and opposite personalities from other people, so you'd get the maximum amount of confliction in the household. But I don't believe any reality show nowadays. I think it's all contrived.
Oh,
I don't think there's anything genuine anymore. They're paid to come on here, and it's the same thing you read about, you know, shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, which, you know, is very popular among, you know, our female population here, that everybody on there has some story behind how they got on the show. It's really not people genuinely applying to the show and getting selected randomly.
Right.
They get people who are going to have, you know, a lot of these people, you do the research, they already had 30,000 followers on Instagram and all this stuff. And it's people being genuinely, deliberately antagonistic to make for entertainment purposes. I mean, I don't believe there are any genuine, outside of Animal Planet, any real, reality shows anymore.
My dad loves Dr. Pol.
Oh, so does my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, the animal doctor dude.
I've never watched it, but my dad loves Dr. Pol.
Yeah.
The only other one that he likes that is kind of spun a little bit more reality, because you can see some things are staged, but it's still real, is the Irwin family. You know, the Australians.
Oh,
Steve Irwin died from the stingray years ago, but my dad still loves watching, can't remember the wife's name, but, his kids.
Yeah, his son and his daughter both kind of following his footsteps.
And it's like, I've watched a little bit of that with him, and I've said, okay, I know some of this is scripted, but at the same time, it's still real.
Right.
That they're going to go ahead and they're going to catch this shark and they're going to do this, test on this shark or whatever. And she's asking some scripted questions. To
the shark?
Yes. And the shark answers. I mean, it's a great show. I've never seen a talking shark until I saw this show. But you can tell it's still real. They're legitimate people. Like Steve Irwin used to go out and he would do stuff. He'd like, oh, there's a lizard there. And that's
is that your Australian accent?
Yes, it is. It sounds just like an Australian. Oh, there's a lizard. And he'd go get the lizard and he'd catch it. And he'd be like, oh, if he bites me, I'm going to die. But let me just poke him in the eye and see what happens. Yeah.
I didn't understand a word of that.
Well, that's because it was in
Australian. Is that authentic Australian?
Yes. I learned that when I was over there years ago.
Right. I think part of the problem, kind of circling back with the whole Russian bride thing, is because of the culture in Russia and the influence of the church still there, that 30 years old, if you're a female in Russia, is considered over the hill and pretty much unmarriable. You're like an old maid. You're put out to pasture at that point at 30. Whereas, in the United States at the moment, it's like that's when a woman's kind of like dependent, trying to decide her career. She's going to be a strong, independent woman. She don't need no man. Then 3 or 4 years later, she decides she does need a man and wants to settle down and stuff.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is the Russians have it right.
Well, yeah, if you're 30, you're over the hill, right?
I think so.
And the big problem in Russia is the life expectancy, I think, mainly due to the vodka and the nuclear missiles and the...
stackable dolls.
Stackable... Dolls, yeah, that. And, I think the radiation from the nuclear weapons factories is the average life expectancy for men is 64 as of 2019 in Russia. That's pretty bad, isn't it?
That is very bad.
But for women, it's 73.
So do they have Social Security in Russia?
I don't know.
Because they wouldn't even get Social Security checks.
Well, AARP's missing out on some money as well if they're over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for women, it's 73. So they can expect to, pretty much outlive men by 10 years. So if they're over the hill by 30 and, they're going to outlive the men by 10 years anyway, they figure, well, let me go for a Western man, because they think that, women are still finding themselves by, like early 30s. They've gone through one bad divorce and all this stuff by making stupid decisions, but they're still marryable. And so Russian women think, I'm still at the prime of my life and all this. And
sure, but something has bizarrely happened within the last, say 5 or 10 years. I remember looking at a deal with the women from the Golden Girls, right? And I remember seeing that show when I was younger.
I have an inappropriate question about this. Go on.
But if you remember the women from the Golden Girls, you always say, okay, well, they were kind of older ladies. But that show, in their age in that show, was the same age as women like Jennifer Lopez and some other high up there kind of celebrities that are still very, very beautiful. And it's completely different now. Like that, a woman can be in her 50s, 60s. Who was it? Who's the British chick that
you narrowed it down too much?
No, the British chick. She was in Pearl Harbor. Dark hair. Oh man, I can't think of her name.
British woman with dark hair was in Pearl Harbor. You talking about You're not talking about the daughter of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, are you?
No, she's not that old. She's much younger than that. I can picture her right now, but you find out she's in her mid-50s, and that's what, when I was growing up, a woman in her 30s looked like. So we kind of fast-forwarded this time now, because it was almost like, okay, woman hits 50, she cuts all her hair off, she dyes it some funny color, she starts wearing pantsuits.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Nowadays, they're out there in thong bikinis and dancing around like they're 20 years old.
Well, this is the whole...
It's extremely confusing.
Yeah. There's a theory out there, which actually I came up with.
Hang on.
Go on.
Kate Beckinsale. There's the name.
Oh, yeah. And oh my goodness, she must be about 92 by now, but she still looks really good. But no, there's this theory out there called the centralization theory, which actually I came up with. And this was actually for something I did in college, and it was about how girls, through the media sexualization and also the access to clothes where fashion moguls kind of try and attract these kids into wearing more adult type clothes, that they're trying to make 12 and 13-year-olds look like 18-year-olds and 20-year-olds, but also on the other end of the spectrum, they're selling clothes to try and make 55-year-olds look like 30-year-olds. And so they're trying to push this central pool of identification whereby, if you're 12, you can look like you're 18. If you're 50, you can look like you're 30. And it's all about this attractiveness. And then on the other hand, they want to kind of push this kind of girl power thing of, women shouldn't be, recognized, judged based upon the appearance. But hold on, you make your entire money, whether it be Vogue, Elle, all these magazines and all these fashion houses, purposely on sexualizing underage kids and women who should know better, of trying to show their ass at age 55 and then complaining about the fact that women are sexualized and not judged by their character other than their appearance. And so I came up with this theory, which was the centralization theory, that it was aimed at men not discriminating by women based upon age. And so that, this whole thing, I don't think the ageist movement came in until about 10 years ago. And then it was quickly followed by the, big is beautiful movement. And so it's now kind of very, faux pas to judge a woman by her size and her age, and that she's capable of anything. And you know what? There's whole people who are trying to push this movement are the people responsible for it in the first place. And I know that's a bit of an aside, but men had nothing to do with this. Men were never the people who pushed the sexualization of young girls, who tried to push 50-year-old women trying to look younger. We weren't the people who pushed this stuff. We didn't create this artificial, unbalanced environment where women were constantly having to spend $80 a month on line fillers for the under-eye makeup before they go to bed at night. They weren't pushing thongs for 12-year-old girls. This is an environment created by women in this industry and then blamed men for it. So that's my rant over on that.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell too much on this, but I got to add a little bit of color to that. The opposite side of the spectrum with men, there is nothing more embarrassing than trying to look at a guy that's in his, let's say, 40s.
I'm wearing skinny jeans.
That is exactly. Wearing skinny jeans, wearing the little bedazzled jeans, wearing shirts that don't fit him. All of that stuff, at least women can get away with it because it's like, okay, women take more pride in their appearance than men do, but the man that actually tries to really take too much pride in their appearance and try to appear so much younger, it reminds me of that Steve Buscemi thing where he's got the skateboard on his back and he's like, "How are we doing, fellow kids?" It's so embarrassing. It's embarrassing to men, and men just don't realize how embarrassing it really is.
Yeah, and I want to take this point to say, I know in a lot of our podcasts we joke about women, and some of it can come across as sexist, but...
Do we?
Apparently, according to some of our emails.
Oh.
But, I love women. Women are fantastic, but I do think that a lot of the problems women face in society are created by women, whether it be jealous women who just want to make money and exploit women, and then, dislocate, place the blame elsewhere, get the focus pointing towards people who are not really, the apex of the issue or of the problem. And I think, that's a big thing. We talk about and we joke about women moaning, women whining about things, but to be honest, if I think about all the things my girlfriend whines at me about,
which is a lot,
she's probably right 90% of the time.
Let's go with 98.
No, I'm going to go with 90 because she's probably listening to this.
Sorry.
And I agree with it, but the thing is, the expectations placed upon what women want and what men want haven't really changed. Women still want, regardless of how independent they are, and how long they go through this struggle of I don't need no man. At the end of the day, we're wired to want companionship. And this was what this whole podcast was about, this Mail Order Brides, that people would go to these lengths to try and find a companion, whether it be on the male initiation part of sending these letters, to try and find a female, or female trying to, respond to these letters. Basically, we want companionship, and it doesn't matter what men like about women, what women like about men, and what we dislike about each other. We want companionship, and mostly we want companionship with the opposite sex. And yeah, there's things we don't like, and I think that's because as we grow up, mostly in the early years of our life, our friendships are same-sex friendships, and we get used to liking things and people agreeing with the things we like, and then all of a sudden we're kind of thrown into forming a relationship with somebody who's a tiny bit opposite of us on certain things. That's not in our formative years. That's already when we're developed, and that's where it's like, oh, women don't like this about men, men don't like this about women. But at the end of the day, this whole thing, mail order brides, it doesn't matter how many thousands of years you go back, a man wants to find a woman wants to find a man. And, again, going the progressive route, I don't care if a man wants to find a man, a woman wants to find a woman. That really doesn't matter to me.
Right.
People want to find a companion. And that's this whole mail order bride thing. It must have been a difficult thing. You don't want to wait 6 weeks for kind of, hey, did you like my photo?
Right.
And imagine the reply and it comes back and he forgets to answer the question. You know what it's like when you're expecting the text and it doesn't answer the question to your text. You have to kind of resend it.
Absolutely.
Imagine that by Pony Express.
Yeah, my daughter gets mad if I don't click the like button on Instagram when she posts a picture and I haven't hit the like button on that within 15 minutes.
You know, one of the things about mail order brides is you have to be really careful about nowadays where you get them from. Okay, because like if you get, I don't know, maybe like Russian brides or like ex-Soviet bloc, they don't expect you to sponsor their entire family to come over, right?
Okay.
So say you got, I don't know, a bride from the Ukraine, you know, you're not thinking, all right, well, you know, her mother, her grandmother, all her, you know, cousins and all this are also going to look to be sponsored and, you know, all 15 of them are going to live in your 3-bedroom house. But a lot of the Asian countries, okay, like Philippines and stuff, Southeast Asian countries, their culture is that if a man marries a woman, that the man has to be willing to take in that woman's immediate relatives, like mother, grandmother, and everybody else to take care of them. So they all come and live with them.
Okay, so I'm out on that one.
Not signing up for that.
Yeah, no.
I'm not signing up for that, right?
I'm not doing
So,
that.
I mean, especially if it's like Filipino bride. So it's like, well, 99% of the time there's small boobies and I'm going to have to look after a mother and a grandmother for the rest of their life. Which if they're sleeping in the living room with the irritable bowel syndrome, definitely not signing up for that one.
No. I mean, I was out on having to inherit all that other family. I mean, it's bad enough when you haven't even met the person you're supposed to be with, right?
Right.
And then now all of a sudden you have this entourage coming behind them of all these other people you haven't met. No.
Well, imagine that.
No.
Like, you know, you've got your Filipino bride over, right? You're there in your bedroom.
Do they eat curry in the Philippines?
No. They eat pho, that PHO word.
I thought that was Thailand.
Well, they might do it there as well. It's pretty much the same place.
I think so.
It's called different names, but it's the same place, I can guarantee.
It's just a...
Thailand just make better plastic toys for kids.
No, I agree with that.
Right?
Is it Thailand or Taiwan?
No, they make good toys as well, but Chinese aren't recognizing Taiwan at this point in time, remember? Them in Hong Kong, they've got a bit of an issue with...
Now, which one of them makes the toys for the McDonald's Happy Meals?
Taiwan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
good
all for
toys,
that.
good toys.
Yeah.
Non-poisonous paints and chemicals.
Right.
Not like the old days were. Remember the Smurfs? Those first toys which came out, they used to be painted with lead paint. And so kids would lick, and there was I think a lawsuit, right? I don't know who produced the toys, but they would lick the Smurfs hats and the paint would come off, but it was made with lead paint, and there was a whole bunch of like issues with...
This sounds like a problem for inner city Detroit.
What, because of their Smurf fixation, or...
Yeah.
Why Detroit? Do they have a Smurf fetish?
Well, they're very close to Canada, so they're almost Canadians.
That explains everything.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not every Eastern country...
I don't believe you.
...is actually happy about losing their females abroad, because at some point you'd think one of these countries would be like, you know what? We're losing a lot of our really good females overseas. Well, in 2005, okay, president of Belarus, got no freaking clue where that is. I've heard of it, and I know it's somewhere over close to Russia. He attempted to regulate marriage agencies which had set up in the country of Belarus, and he didn't want Western men drawing his country of their childbearing women.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you got to replenish your population, right? So he was trying to do the right thing.
To me, I read that and I just kind of like thought of the movie Borat, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's very similar. That makes total sense. So good for him. I'm glad he tried to take care of that.
So, I mean, we get like, okay, we're talking today. You go online, you want to file a mail order bride, right? Or now an internet order bride. Who do you think is like really dominating the space?
I'm going to have to go with an Asian country.
Yeah.
I mean, like China.
China.
Is it
exactly China? Yeah.
Is it?
China dominates space.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a problem. We got a problem right now because this podcast...
Dominating everything, aren't they?
Well, but this podcast that we've done, every time you've asked me a question, I think I've got it right, and you haven't tried to stump me yet. So I'm just so frustrated that
This is the most predictable podcast we've ever had in terms of answers. There's no way I could have stumped the shepherd on any of the questions in this.
Okay, well, thanks for just destroying my
self-confidence.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. Now, I'm not exactly sure it's the case with Chinese people who don't actually live in China, right? Because I've actually got some friends, who have, they're second or third generation Chinese people. Love them. They're fun and everything. But I think...
So you're talking about people of Chinese descent, like they grew up in China but have then migrated to another country?
No, not really. No, I'm talking about people I know who are Chinese and, maybe their parents or their grandparents were originally from China.
Isn't that what I just said?
I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention.
Well, I know you don't.
All right. So, no, Chinese people, right? So the ones who have lived here for a while, or the ones who, maybe their parents or grandparents moved over, and also the ones I knew in Europe, I mean, they're fun, smart, intelligent people, independent personalities. But I do think, how China is, if you're getting a bride directly from China at the moment, that you're pretty much doing the equivalent of ordering a McDonald's drive-through meal. It's the same thing. It's like got regulated haircuts. They're all indoctrinated with the same education from like infant years. And so you're not really getting much deviation, right? It's not like you're getting a girl from Wisconsin and you could end up with a brunette, a ginger with no soul.
But if you got a girl from Wisconsin, she would be able to make cheese.
Yeah.
There's not much cheese in Chinese food.
There really isn't, is there? Do they have cows in China?
I don't think so. Don't they worship them over there?
No, it's India.
Oh.
But the Indians are the best, so they made the right decision.
Yeah. But there's no cheese in Chinese food. Why is that? I mean, cheese makes everything better.
Because they don't have cows in China.
Oh. I wonder if we could import cows into China.
No, that'd be export, mate. Remember, export is sending them. Import, and you can't import to China because we don't live in China.
Yeah, that's right. But we could put cows over there, and then we could
put them over there. What are we doing? We put them on a boat to China.
Cows know how to swim.
Well, maybe not to China.
Why not?
We live in Texas. What, we're going to put them in the Gulf of Mexico? Like, put a label on them, sticky note, go to China.
Yeah, but they can go through the Panama Canal.
Not to China.
Well, no, they go around.
Are they going to go back to your original Cape of Good Hope?
Yeah, if that's the one.
And get to China.
There. But that's what the Panama Canal was all about, so they didn't have to go down there.
So we can't... you've missed the whole point of the original part of this podcast. We FedEx them. Ooh. We FedEx the cows to China.
Yeah, but like you talked about before with the mailing the women
in
boxes.
Have you missed out on the whole thing from the last 10 years? If it fits, it ships. We just need to get a big enough box. Doesn't matter about the weight. Same thing with the women. Same thing with the cows.
Yeah. So we got to find a really big box to put cows in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work on that next week, I think. So, yeah, I don't honestly know if you're getting a bride from China, whether there's going to be much differentiation. So, I mean, you're definitely going to get a bride because, like 1.2, 1.3 billion people in China, like over half of them are women. And, they kind of kill a lot of female babies there because they don't like them and stuff. So if you're born a female and actually get to grow up, you're already lucky. So I'm figuring, right, if I want a Chinese bride, I'm going to have about 0.6 billion minus the ones that are too young, minus the ones too old. So maybe about 0.3. So maybe about 350 million potential matches. Pretty sure they're all going to have the same hair color, same hair length, because again, it's regulated and they get beaten if they don't follow the protocol. All had the same education. So, I mean... again, it's like ordering a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's not going to be the greatest cheeseburger on earth, but you get a cheeseburger, there's a bun, there's some meat, and there's some cheese. And I think that's what it's like getting Chinese mail order brides directly from China.
Except there's no cheese in China because they don't have cows.
Well, outside of that, I think, actually, you know what the biggest problem with this scenario is?
That there's no cows in China?
No, that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is because of the indoctrination is them when they come over, right? Them calling you affectionate names like baby and darling instead of Western capitalist pig.
Oh.
Yeah, because that'd be the thing. It'd be like, oh, Shepherd, you Western capitalist pig. You should be like, oh, Shepherd, my darling. Yeah, so I think that's going to be the hardest thing, get them not to like hate you right out of the box, which if we get them via FedEx, it probably will be right out of the box. I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe you could just kind of spin that around. I mean, you could explain to them that they could somehow turn that word into affectionate. Just like we used to say, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s, you called a female a chick, right? But a chick is like a little chicken. And so maybe we could reinvent that word. Maybe Western capitalist pig could be a term of endearment. Especially when we get the cows over there so they can have cheese. Imagine how much better they would feel.
There's a whole process, right? Cows don't just like spit cheese out the tit.
Well, no, they have to have a cheese factory.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the next investment.
But China is known for their factories. So we could, if we got the cows over there, imagine the cheese trade in China. It could be huge.
Well, you've got to whet their palate for it. You've got to introduce it. Chinese people eat pizza.
Wasn't it invented in China?
Pizza?
Yeah. Because I know it wasn't invented in Italy.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it was China.
No, I'm pretty sure it was invented in China. Isn't that where Little Caesar was from? Wasn't Caesar the head of China? And that's why we have pizza now?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't think so. I think the Chinese built the website for Little Caesar, but
probably.
So, if you were divorced, would you consider a mail order internet bride?
No.
Why?
No. If I get divorced,
well, you don't go anywhere to meet anybody. So what do you mean no?
Well, no. I love my wife, and if I lose her, then I'm just going to be by myself.
Well, no, that's not true. You're going to move in the extra bedroom with me and my girlfriend, because then you and I can play Xbox every night.
Well, exactly. But right. I don't need no woman.
You ain't need no woman. You're a strong, independent man.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So I think my ideal...
And by the way, because I'm married and I have, my wife and my kids, my Rocket League abilities are starting to slip a little bit.
Yeah. You actually rank below me now.
I know.
Like way below me.
I know.
So
I got to fix that.
So I think I would actually go that route. And I think my ideal would be like a Bollywood level attractiveness Indian woman, because we know those Indian women, Bollywood women, are like beautiful. They're like princesses, queens. I'd want a 25-year-old like Bollywood level attractiveness queen from India, because those women, I mean, they're smart. They can cook.
Yeah, but they make a lot of curry over there. That's why you're thinking about that.
That's why they're perfect for me. But no, like I said, no. I mean, they're smart. They're beautiful. Sierra. I think I would get my male bride from India, because they're wonderful women.
Oh.
I think that's where.
I'm.
They check all my boxes.
Yeah, I'm just too lazy to look.
Some of my boxes they check twice.
Well, I would just be too lazy to look. I'd be like, ooh, look at all this extra free time. Now I can play Xbox finally.
Yeah. So I think the greatest tale I ever heard about mail order brides or the such was from a friend I had in England. He was an old dude. He was like, I don't know, just old. But he was an ex-World War II veteran, the greatest generation. And he actually ended up marrying a bride from Poland. And he got married in 1946, like a year after the war ended, yeah. And he got her over, and I think he got her over in like with about 6 months. There wasn't, many immigration rules and that. And he said it was going fantastic for about 3 months. And he got her on this fast track, earning the English language. And this is where things started to go downhill. He said, and I quote, she began offering her own opinions, which is a no-no, right? Would tell him no on occasions. Again, these are his own words. And she was terrible at cooking proper English food and didn't seem to want to take correction on the matter. So he would tell us this, like every time we'd see him, he would moan about his wife, right? But he was married to her at this point, like about 35 years, loved the absolute crap out of her, but still had some complaints. But remember, like in the end of the season meeting, he was supposed to be giving out trophies, or at least like all the managers and captains and, everything everybody do with all these teams. And he stood up and he actually gave this speech about, like unity with teams, teamship and all this other stuff. And he went off on this thing and he suddenly said about his wife. And, there were a lot of young coaches there, a lot of young players. And he said, if you get a wife from overseas, they're not all they're cracked up to be. He could have left it there. But he says, if you're going to get a wife from overseas, don't teach them English. Because the moment you start teaching them English, they're going to start disagreeing with you. So I think that should be canon in getting a mail order bride.
Well, I think we explained everything about mail order brides as we typically try to do, and we certainly appreciate y'all listening, and we will catch you on the next one.